So I love meeting new fans at expos or out on the street or wherever I am, and the one question that I get asked the most is, how do I do what I do? How do I travel the world, film reptiles, and earn a living doing it for this channel? Well, in this video, I'm going to share some secrets that I've never shared with anybody before on how I'm able to travel the world, film reptiles, and earn a living doing it for the past 11 and a half years that I've had this channel. I'm Dave Kaufman, and these are my reptile adventures. So I guess I'll begin at the, very beginning, just to give this some context. A lot of you may know that back in '09, I was an independent film producer and I was making a pretty good run at it. I had already produced a horror movie that did very well, that went out through Lionsgate globally, grossed a lot of money. I'm still waiting to see a lot of that money. After I made that horror movie called 13 Hours in a Warehouse, I wanted to make a documentary, and I wanted to make a documentary about reptile people and who we were, so that the people out there in the world that completely misunderstand who we are as a community and the animals that we love could get kind of a window into who we were, and that movie was called Herpers. Well, that movie was so successful that I then, 2 years later, made Herpers 2. That movie was very successful, so 2 years later I released Herpers 3, Tales from the Field. I was going to release a fourth installment of that series called Herpers 4, The Global Phenomenon, and show how our community is not just based here in the United States, but it is actually a global reptile community. Well, at that point, Blockbuster had closed their doors. When they did that, they took the entire independent film world with them. Nobody was really buying DVDs anymore, so I had all this footage for Herpers 4 that I didn't know what to do with. And I'm driving to Tinley actually that year, and I was like, what am I going to do with all this footage? And that's when I decided, well, put it up on YouTube, keep this thing going on YouTube. And so that's what I did. I put those videos up on YouTube, and I called this channel Herpers TV. I'm a herper, and I love it. Where I did that for about 4 years. And during that time, I wasn't really thinking that YouTube was going to be a career for me. I was actually in college working on a degree in history, actually. I was going to be a history professor, but YouTube just started to take off, and all of a sudden I realized that I could combine so many of my passions in one creative force. I could travel the world, I could go herping, I can make movies, I can upload those movies to YouTube, and I don't need to have any pitch sessions with any networks. I don't have to go through all of the song and dance of trying to get somebody else to say yes before I could get creative. YouTube has provided us creators with so much independent creative freedom that I probably will never go back to the independent film world. But that being said, after I graduated and earned my BA in history, I looked into becoming a history professor, and then once I started looking into what that entails, I started shifting my focus more and more towards making YouTube into a career. Well, at that point, Herpers TV was just kind of flatlining. It wasn't gaining any sort of traction. I wasn't doing a vlog style video. I was doing a documentary style video for 4 years, and it just, again, kind of flatlined. And then I thought, okay, I need to rebrand this channel, and I need to make it more vlog style, and I need to film in such a way that I am inviting all of you to come with me on all of my reptile adventures, and that's where the name Dave Kaufman's Reptile Adventures started. And I made that rebrand happen in April of 2018. Since then, I have not missed one single weekly upload since I started this rebrand in April of 2018. And I've toured the entire world, set foot on every single continent except the one with the penguins. I'll get there one day. But this channel has not only made it possible for me to earn a living, but it's made it possible for me to travel the world and find all these amazing reptiles that I absolutely love, from the jungles of South America to the deserts of the Middle East to Europe to Southeast Asia. Literally all over the world I have been filming for this channel. So again, a lot of people come up to me at expos and they ask me how I've done it. First of all, I'm a one-man band. I do not have a crew. I do not have anybody filming with me. I do not travel with anyone. I do sometimes, but not as a crew for this channel. I do all my own scheduling. I do all my own planning of all my trips. I do all my own filming and all my own editing. And as you guys may know, this isn't my only channel. I actually have 2 active channels now. I used to have 4. I used to have a fishing channel. That channel just never really took off, so I stopped uploading to that channel and retired that channel. And then I had Dave Kaufman's Adventures, where I did a lot of animal stuff and a lot of strange adventures and things. Had a lot of fun with that. But that channel just really didn't take off either. I was getting a lot of views, but I wasn't earning a lot of revenue from that. That channel, for all my work, was gaining about $200 a month, where the fishing channel, I think at its top, was making $15 a month. So when you do YouTube, you're going to have either success or you're going to have failure, just like with everything else. And isn't it funny how when people see you fail, they're so quick to point that judgmental finger right at you and say, "What did you do wrong?" But then when you have success, everybody thinks, "Oh, well, that was easy. Somebody gave that to him. He's really lucky. That took no effort for him to get that." I don't understand that kind of mentality, but I hear it all the time. I hear things like, "I'm living off of a trust fund and I'm rich and I get to travel the world and that's how I do this." I wish. Yes, I own my house, but I'm still driving a 2013 Murano that is actually, as I'm filming this, in the shop again. Simply because I'm not going to allocate any monies towards a new vehicle just yet. But I live within my means, and I really wish that some of these things that people were saying, that I do live off of a trust fund or my family is wealthy. And the truth is that I grew up so poor that we didn't shop at Sears for clothes. We shopped at the Sears outlet store for clothes because we couldn't afford the clothes from Sears. So I have built what I have from nothing, from absolutely $0 up to what I have now. And it's, again, really funny how people kind of treat failure as you did something wrong, but if you have success, somebody gave that to you, or you're lucky, or whatever it is. But the point is that I do live very much so within my means. And that is one of the keys of success, is to live within your means and be able to manage money responsibly so that you don't get financially underwater, because as soon as you're financially underwater, failure is the next step. So yes, I am a one-man band with my 2 active channels, this channel and Dave Kaufman Eats the World, which is really skyrocketing right now. And these 2 channels are where I'm going to focus the majority of my attention. Yet I have 3 other channels that are in development, and I'm going to launch those sometime within the next year or 2. So how do I do this all by myself and earn a living? Well, the first step is to be hyper organized. And I mean so organized that you know exactly what you're going to film, how you're going to edit what you're going to film before you film it. So in other words, when I go on a trip, I have a whole list of videos that I'm going to shoot. And when I think about those specific videos, I already have them edited in my head, so that when I'm on that trip and I start filming, I'm just basically filming what I already have edited in my head. And now that always doesn't work out, because there have been many trips where I've gone out to seek out this particular reptile in the wild and haven't found it. And so you can't be really rigid to what you have in mind, because, you know, let's face it, we can't predict the future and things always arise that don't go according to your plan. But being hyper organized means that I have a 6-month schedule already laid out. So it's September now. I now know what I'm going to be filming between now and next March. I have all of my trips lined out. I have all of my videos scheduled every single week for the next 6 months. And so therefore, I'm not filming for 1 month and then when that month is over, scrambling to try to find more content. I am always 6 months ahead of myself at any given calendar period. So I always know what I'm going to film, what trips I have to take, and that sort of thing. So hyper organization is the key to being successful on YouTube. The downside of that is that I do so much work in prep to get on that trip that when I land in that destination before I even press record, I am completely exhausted, and yet I have to appear on camera like I'm fresh and I'm raring to go, which I am, but just know that internally I could fall asleep right then and there as soon as I get off that plane. So coming from a film background, I obviously understand how the film world works, how the television world works, because I was in that industry for a number of years, again, before I started YouTube. And so I treat my channels exactly the same way as television production companies treat their shows. So the structure basically is production company goes to studio, says, I've got an idea for a TV show. Here's the pitch. The studio or the network then says, love the idea. I'm going to order 13 episodes. Studio pays for those 13 episodes, production company goes back, hires the writers, the directors, the producers, the actors, everything they need to produce those 13 episodes that they then deliver to the studios, which then place them either in their theaters or on their respective TV networks. Well, that's a really hard way to do things because the studio is the gatekeeper, and before you can get creative, you have to get somebody at that studio to give you permission to get creative and start producing these shows. Well, knowing that structure, that's exactly how I look at YouTube. My production company is Rattle On Media. Rattle On Media is the production company that produces this show, Dave Kaufman Eats the World, and the other channels that I'm about to launch. I don't see them as channels, I see them as TV shows exactly the way that a production company and the network and the studios see them. And knowing that structure is how I can do this pretty much on my own, because I can act as the production company and the studio in one, and YouTube thus becomes the network that those TV shows are shown to you guys on. It's a little confusing, but I, again, treat this a little bit different than I think other YouTubers do, who just see, hey, I'm going to start a channel and I'm going to film a bunch of stuff for that channel and I'm going to throw it on YouTube. I think more like an independent producer than I do a content creator. And I think that because I do that and because I know how that works, it kind of gives me an edge to do multiple channels at once, again, all by myself. The downside about being a content creator that really nobody talks about is that YouTube is a pretty harsh mistress. YouTube's algorithm is designed to keep you watching. And if the videos that us content creators aren't getting you guys to watch and watch long enough, the algorithm thus becomes that studio gatekeeper in a way to say that, okay, people aren't responding positively to this channel, they're not watching long enough, and YouTube will not push your videos to a broader audience. The other side of the coin is that you can never really take a break from YouTube. If you take a break from YouTube, YouTube will kill your channel. They claim that they won't. They claim that they support creator burnout and allow creators to take a break, but it's not consequence free. I've known a lot of YouTubers, a lot of reptile YouTubers actually, that have taken that break for a month, 2 months, whatever. They were getting hundreds of thousands of views on their channel, and they go back after they take a break and they're getting maybe 3,000, 5,000, 7,000 views, where before they took the break, they were getting hundreds of thousands of views. So YouTube will absolutely punish you if you take a break. So you really can't. So whereas a studio says, give me 13 episodes or 22 episodes or however many they order, that's a season. With YouTube, it is 52 episodes every single week of the year without a break. And I'm telling you, creator burnout is absolutely real. But the way that I kind of save myself from that creator burnout is, it's weird, but I've created different channels in different genres. So if I'm not really feeling like a reptile video, but I know that I've got to get it up on Saturday, I can just shift my focus to food, to a completely different genre, take my brain out of the reptile world for a while. Once I get that video done, then I can go back with a fresh mind and continue to do the reptile videos. And it seems counterintuitive, but packing on more creative outlets is actually how I keep myself from completely burning out on one specific channel. So now that I've given you a little bit of context about how YouTube actually works and what it's like to be a creator and my philosophy and my approach as to being a content creator on YouTube, let's talk about the topic of this video, and that's how to travel the world filming reptiles and getting paid for it. So let's talk, first of all, about cameras and the cameras that I use. Surprisingly enough, I only use 3 cameras when I shoot my videos. One of those cameras is my cell phone, and this is the Samsung, whatever the hell this thing is, Q24 XYZ blah blah blah. It's the newest Samsung model, and it has 5 cameras on the back that are probably better than a lot of $2,000, $3,000 cameras out there. I use this camera phone for a lot of my close-ups. And then, you're going to be surprised by this, but every single one of my food videos is shot with this and with a GoPro. Just a simple GoPro. They're portable, they fit in your pocket. I don't like to carry a bunch of stuff out into the jungles when I go out there because it weighs me down. So with these 2 things, I can film what I need to film out there in the jungle without carrying a lot of cameras. For my beauty shots, I use the camera that I'm filming right now. So I really haven't invested a ton of money into camera equipment because I simply don't need to. And there's a saying when it comes to cameras. It's not the camera, it's the camera operator that makes a good film or a good video. So once I've filmed my videos on my phone, on my GoPro, on this camera over here, I go right over there to my desk, to my laptop, and I edit all of my videos on Premiere Pro. And back when I talked about being hyper organized, part of that is the editing process. So a lot of people will watch every single clip, take their clips out of that clip, then put that on the line, go to the next clip, take their clips out of that, put that on the line. That's not how I do it. I tend to think about my videos as chapters. So in this chapter, we're going to talk about this snake. This chapter, we're going to talk about that lizard. So on, so on, so on. So I film my videos in chapters. When I go to the editing line, I take all of the footage in that chapter, put it on the line, and then I edit chapter by chapter. For me, at least, it used to be that editing took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours per minute of finished video. So if it was a 20-minute video, that edit would take me 40 hours of work to complete that video. Now that I have it more streamlined and I'm much more organized, it takes me about a half hour per minute to edit simply because of the system that I use. So now I can get a reptile video edited in about a day. So let's move on and talk about expenses. Traveling the world is expensive, but it's not as actually expensive as most people think. People think that travel is ridiculously expensive. It can be, but it doesn't have to be if you know how to do it. So right here, I've drawn up a little diagram about what it costs for me to travel with all of my expenses. That's about as good as I draw. I'm not a drawer. So over here, I've put this in 2 columns, domestic trips and international trips. Surprisingly, domestic trips can be much more expensive than international trips. If you go to Florida, which is ridiculously expensive, I can go to maybe 3 separate islands in the Caribbean for a week for the same amount that it cost me to spend a week in Florida, actually. But the first thing you're going to have to buy is your airline tickets. And domestic airlines, they'll run you about between $300 and $600, let's say, for a round-trip ticket from here in my home of Minneapolis to pretty much anywhere in the country. But I've averaged that out at about $450. International, obviously that's going to be a much bigger expense. I've averaged that out at about $2,000. Next thing you have to think about are car rentals, because as soon as you land, you need to get around, you need to get from shoot to shoot to shoot. You absolutely need a car. Here in the United States, car rentals for a week are about $550. They can be more, but internationally, you can find them for much cheaper. Per week, they're about 250 bucks. This little box right there, that's supposed to be a hotel. There's supposed to be little windows in there. Again, not a drawer. But hotels and Airbnbs, this is going to be your biggest expense when you travel. Domestically for a week, it can be as high as $1,200 because a lot of the hotels, they're $175 a night. Abroad, they're not going to be as much depending on where you go. So it's on the average of about $1,000 a week for hotels and Airbnbs internationally. Food's really expensive here in the United States. It's going to be about $950 a week, whereas abroad it's not as expensive depending on where you go. I put $700 a week for that. Then on to guides, which is an absolute must when you're visiting a different country. You have to find the guides that can take you out into the field, show you what you want to find. Guides are going to be about $100 to $200 a day. So for a week, I put $700. Then miscellaneous down here, that's supposed to be a little refrigerator magnet of Vietnam. I buy a lot of refrigerator magnets, then they wind up in boxes, not on my refrigerator because my refrigerator is all full of magnets at this point. But I just put $250 for domestic, $250 for international, which means that on the average, a domestic trip costs me $2,930, whereas the average international trip costs me $4,900. So where does that money come from? Well, to be honest, it comes from you guys through Patreon, and it also comes from my sponsors. And what that has created for me is a vehicle in which I can now travel the world and film reptiles and get paid for it, but I'm not really getting paid for it at this point. And not only that, but doing it this way, I've essentially created a house of cards. And I'll explain what that means in a little bit. But my sponsors, Zilla, Palm Street, Morph Market, I recently lost rainbow mealworms, had them for years. Hopefully I can get them back in the future. But my sponsors pay for these trips. And what I give them in return are ad space within my videos. Like this one.
Morph Market is the #1 online marketplace for all your reptiles and amphibians. You can search through over 60 categories to find your perfect new pet, whether it's the latest boa constrictor morph or your 150th crested gecko. It's all right here at one place. Morph Market.
But the way that I have this set up is that I don't take a single penny of my sponsors' dollars. 100% of the money that comes from my sponsors and my Patreon supporters goes directly into the production of my videos. It goes into these trips. And when you're traveling domestic at least once a month, internationally maybe every other month, every third month, that expense gets really, really high. And without my sponsors and with you guys, my Patreon supporters, I would not be able to do this. If I lost all of my Patreon supporters and all of my sponsors, my house of cards would completely fall and this channel would probably cease to exist at that point. But on the other hand, I have living expenses just like everyone else. This house, my car, my insurance, all of my utilities, all of my bills, it's about $4,000 a month. So where do I get that $4,000 a month from if I'm not taking any money from sponsors? It comes from something called AdSense, and that is the direct payment from YouTube selling those skippable ads to companies. I get a portion of that ad revenue, and it's called AdSense, and that's how YouTubers make money without sponsorship. So if a trip costs me $4,900, my job becomes what videos and how many videos am I going to shoot on that trip so that I can recoup that $4,900 that my sponsors have essentially invested in my videos. And that is extremely difficult to do because the way that YouTube works is there's something called an RPM, and what that means is the dollar amount that creators make per 1,000 views. And surprisingly enough, it's between $5 and maybe $12 every 1,000 views. So for a video to get 20,000 views, I'm only getting a couple $100 back off of that single video. So that's kind of how I do things. You know, with my channels, I'm at that kind of point where I am getting too big to continue to do this alone, but I'm still too small to hire a crew. So what that means is I never take a break. And one of the comments that I usually get are, gee, I wish I could vacation for a living. Well, so do I. I really wish that I could take a break. I really wish that I could take a vacation. But if I want to keep what I've built going, and I want to keep it going for as long as I can never take a break. I can never take a day off. Every single day, Sunday through Sunday, through Sunday, through Sunday, and so on, my day literally begins at 6 a.m., sometimes 7 if I sleep in, but I have a routine. I take my dog for a walk, I get my coffee, I feed my dog breakfast, I feed me breakfast, then I'm right in here by about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I have begun working. And I work usually until about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, sometimes even midnight every single day. And it's very hard for me to maintain friendship. So I kind of really don't have a social life when I'm home. When I'm home, all I'm doing is working, taking care of my dog, taking care of my snakes, taking care of Aries, my rhino iguana, and doing other things that I have to do. If I have to get my oil change on my car, I swear that takes about a month and a half for me to get my car in for an oil change simply because I don't have the time to do it. If you want to be successful on YouTube, you have to have that kind of dedication. It is working every single day, sometimes for 18 hours a day. And if it's not editing, it's planning. And if it's not planning, it's filming. And if it's not filming, it's research. A lot of people think that being a YouTube content creator is easy. It's not. It is a constant 24/7 grind. There is something that you have to do at every given waking moment in order to upload solid videos every single week on YouTube. Uploading is one of the most stressful, thought-involved things that we content creators do. The video is done, now we've got to basically put bait on the hook, not clickbait, but enough bait to get people to click on that video when they are offered hundreds, if not thousands of other videos that they can click on. Why are they going to click on one of our videos? That is the thought process that we have to put into that, into our thumbnail design, into our title design. But then we also have to teach the algorithm and the SEO what our video is about in a way that the algorithm is going to understand who to show our videos to. It is a nerve-wracking, brain-bending exercise to upload a video because of all these things that nobody who doesn't do it thinks of, that you have to constantly keep in mind as you are, again, creating your thumbnail design, creating your titles, creating your tags. All of that goes into uploading. But then, once all that's done, then you have to engage with your audience. So you guys who make comments in the comment section below, I try very hard to read every one of them at the very least, let alone give you a heart or respond to them. But the more comments that you get, I don't have the hours of time necessary to go through all those comments and respond. Or that text, for instance, I'm not even going to look at that. But I just don't even have the hours of time that it's going to take for me to look through all those comments and respond to them. So I hope you guys will forgive me for that. It's very time consuming for me to do that. So that's what it takes to be successful as a content creator for YouTube and to travel the world, film really awesome reptiles, and make a living at it. So guys, if you have any further questions on what it takes to be a successful YouTuber, please leave those comments in the comment section below. I will try my best to answer them. As you're watching this right now, I am in Kansas City at the All-American Reptile and Plant Expo. If you live in that area, come down and say hi. That really is a cool expo. I love going to those expos. And guys, of course, I just want to thank each one of my Patreon supporters and my sponsors. Without you guys, I would not be able to continue to do what I do, so I appreciate every single one of you. And guys, as always, thanks for watching, and until the next reptile adventure, love the planet, feed your reptile obsession, and rattle on.